4 years ago, we made a commitment in our budget that by 2025, 1 out of every 10 automobiles sold in Canada will be electric. Then we started working. More Canadians are now purchasing electric vehicles than ever before, thanks to our efforts to lower the cost of purchasing them, our investments in manufacturing, and our acquisition of vital minerals. 2 years ahead of plan, we've accomplished our goal. They believe they will be able to sell those vehicles into the US without paying any taxes at the border. Every single automobile that crosses the line will be subject to a 100% tariff, and you won't be allowed to sell such vehicles. Everyone will be compelled to purchase an electric vehicle, but they refuse to do so since they don't want to. It has a market, and it has a great market. The long-standing economic relationship between the United States and Canada is being rocked by US President Donald Trump's audacious and unreserved reform of his administration's trade policy. These two countries have had a significant trading relationship for many years. Consider the steel beams that form skyscrapers, the metal that powers manufacturing, the cars that come off assembly lines, and even the dairy products that cross the border every day. Over 60% of Canada's automobiles and a significant portion of its metals are among the almost $350 billion worth of goods that Canada exported to the United States in 2023 alone, totaling over $900 billion in bilateral commerce. However, the strain is evident now that the relationship has reached a tipping point. Canadians ask openly, who needs enemies when you have friends like these? A contentious discussion is being sparked by this sentiment. Could Canada truly abandon the American market and reroute its shipments of metal and automobiles in order to strengthen its relationship with the European Union? What would it entail for people, industries, and even well-known companies like Tesla? The shocking thing is that Canadians have a plan. Trump's most recent action is hilarious. Ottawa is shocked and in disarray after he threatened to impose tariffs of up to 100% on Canadian metals and automobiles. This goes beyond a simple shot across the bow. One of Canada's economic lifelines is the target of this cannon fire. Every year, more than 2 million cars built in Canada are imported into the United States. Imagine SUVs built in Quebec and pickup trucks from Ontario factories, as well as millions of tons of steel and aluminum used to make everything from beer cans to bridges. Trump's defense, echoing his America First rhetoric from previous years, he has alluded to national security concerns and a desire to safeguard American businesses. Insiders speculate that more severe measures may be taken, maybe focusing on energy exports like natural gas and oil, which flow south at a pace of around 4 million barrels per day if these tariffs fail to subdue Canada. However, Canada isn't giving up. A top official set the stage for a tit-for-tat confrontation by declaring, "If you pick a fight with us, we'll fight back." A Canadian lawmaker took things a step further by suggesting a 100% tariff on Elon Musk's electric car giant Tesla. They also said, "Our retaliation will be a lot more surgical than that," indicating a targeted attack as opposed to a haphazard reaction. Another legislator redoubled his warnings, threatening to impose a 100% tax on all Tesla vehicles entering the country. Why Tesla? It's both strategic and personal. Tesla isn't your average automaker. This $1 trillion corporation has transformed the electric vehicle sector and is a jewel of American creativity. Targeting it may give Canada a strong negotiating position and ignite a political firestorm in the US, particularly among Musk's outspoken followers. Furthermore, north of the border, Tesla already has a stake in the outcome. It sells thousands of Model 3s and Model Ys to Canadian customers annually and has been eyeing Canada's enormous mineral riches for battery production. The notion of attacking Tesla is not merely symbolic, it is a powerful economic tool. Canada, a nation that has adopted EVs because of hefty incentives and a quest for greener technology, saw Tesla sell over 50,000 units there in 2024. Sales of a $50,000 Model Y would skyrocket to $100,000 overnight due to a 100% tariff, severely hindering Tesla's expansion in North America. Beyond the showroom, it might interfere with plans to purchase lithium and nickel, two essential components for batteries, from Canadian mines located in locations such as Sudbury, Manitoba. Musk originally described Canada as having the ability to revolutionize Tesla's supply chain, but that ambition is now in jeopardy. Canada is effectively threatening to choke off your auto sector and sell these resources somewhere else, possibly to China or Europe, if you slap a 100% tax on me. But is switching to the European Union a realistic option for Canada? It's a question that is both provocative and useful. In addition to being Canada's largest market, the US is also its most convenient. Goods travel quickly and affordably because of the 5,500-mile shared border. Trucks can transport auto parts from Windsor to Detroit in a matter of hours rather than days. 75% of Canada's exports, which are valued at over $450 billion a year, travel south due to the two countries' close ties. It's no easy task to replace that with Europe, which is located across the ocean. Compared to a short trip to New York, shipping a container from Halifax to Rotterdam takes 2 weeks and costs thousands more. Additionally, the EU has its own auto and metal manufacturers such as France's Renault and Germany's Volkswagen, who aren't exactly in dire need of Canadian imports when they have domestic alternatives. Nevertheless, Ottawa isn't playing around when it says it has alternatives. A lifeline is the comprehensive economic and trade deal that was concluded with the EU in 2017. Since going into operation, it has reduced taxes on 98% of items and increased Canadian exports to Europe by 30%. By 2024, anticipate trade of $60 billion. The EU is not toying with protectionism as the US is. A steady open market is provided by its 450 million customers. Talk about how CETA could lessen the impact if Trump follows through is rife in Canadian media. There is no tie in our hands. We have a backup plan. One outlet claimed. European leaders concur, with some arguing that Trump's tariff threats pale in comparison to Canada's trade agreements. Consider steel. Since CETA went into effect, Canada has Consider steel. Since CETA went into effect, Canada has exported more than 1 million tons to the EU, and cooperative green steel projects are being discussed. Low carbon output that supports the climate goals of Europe. However, experts warn that it's not a given. The US market cannot be entirely replaced by the EU. Canadian auto parts may need to be retooled to satisfy EU requirements due to regulatory variations and transportation costs that are 3 times higher than those to Chicago. Competition comes next. Spain has its own car plants, and Sweden and Poland produce steel. Canada is still trusting that it can find a niche. Minerals are quite appealing. Lithium and cobalt are essential for Europe's EV development, and Canada has an abundance of both in areas like the James Bay region of Quebec. You have a strong argument when you combine that with the tariff-free access provided by CETA. According to a trade specialist in Ottawa, we're demonstrating our power, but we're not abandoning the US. Our secret weapon is Europe. It's no accident that Tesla is in the middle of this impending trade war. It's a useful target in addition to its symbolic significance. Canada has quietly contributed to Tesla's expansion by purchasing cars in large quantities and donating raw components. That might be kneecapped by a tariff, which would cause prices to skyrocket and sales to stagnate. Imagine a Michigan manufacturer fighting for nickel that is now on its way to Germany, or a Toronto dealership that has a mountain of unsold Teslas. But it's not just Tesla. The whole auto sector in North America is in danger. Canada contributes $15 billion in car components to the US annually, which feed companies in Ohio and Tennessee under the USMCA, the resurrected NAFTA, steel, aluminum, and parts that cross borders every day. That would be destroyed by a 100% tariff, which would also raise prices for Ford, GM, and Chrysler. Canadian factory communities like Oshawa may experience unemployment, while American consumers may see a $30,000 SUV increase to $40,000. The consequences would not end there. Mexico is also involved. 3 million automobiles are produced annually by its plants. Many depend on Canadian steel. If that is disrupted, the USMCA framework as a whole falters. Both parties can suffer significant losses. Canadians lose their jobs in the morning, and US consumers complain about more expensive vehicles. Why did my truck cost $10,000 more? A driver from Ohio might inquire. For that reason, a Windsor employee might respond, "We shut down our plants." Trump's team, meanwhile, maintains that it's about security and keeping resources and employment domestic. In contrast, Canada views it as bullying. They're implying that we'll sell to Europe or Asia if you press us this far. Asia is unlikely. There's no free trade agreement with China, and Korea and Japan are far away. The true challenger is the EU. CETA's goals include removing tariffs, standardizing regulations, and creating opportunities. Auto parts may follow Canada's increased metal exports there. Consider French EV companies purchasing lithium from Thunder Bay, or German automakers such as BMW acquiring steel from Nova Scotia. Compared to the US market, it is not as smooth. Shipping can take weeks. It's a lifeline, but the costs rise.